are we really thinking about what needs to happen in our downtown to keep it alive? And yes, we're growing out and there's other things happening in other areas. But don't forget about the people that helped create your town.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side.
God bless America. Welcome to The Ranch, everybody. The podcast that explores the people and happenings of Dry Creek Ranch, Eagle, and the greater Boise area. My guest today was a wonderful woman. I really enjoyed hanging out with her. She is the owner of Sweet Tea Living in downtown Eagle. She has an incredible history with this area, which I so appreciate. And she's also struggling a little bit because ACHD is really putting the pressure on businesses downtown. Now, again, ACHD is not necessarily the villain here. The downtown area, as my guest admits, does need some revamping, but that is going to be difficult for the businesses downtown. So we talked extensively about what is actually happening with ACHD, what they're doing, how that's going to affect her business, and what her plans are to get through it. She was wonderful. But I'll let you hear from her. Without further ado, the woman, the myth, the legend, Megan Hoiosen. I mean, come on. It's going to be fine. Now, look, you said you're a lifer in Idaho,
Yes.
right? Born and raised here. I was talking to someone just the other day about politics because I'm doing all of the Board of Education and mayor and city council and everything. And this particular person that I was talking to, he's from Southern California. He moved here a little while ago, longer than me, but he's from California too. And he is so ravenously against one party or the other. Like he's like convinced that people are like out to get the world. And I said, you realize Idaho in the past has had a very balanced mix of parties, right? Like Stan Ridgway. And people can like Stan Ridgway or not like Stan Ridgway, but Stan Ridgway has been involved with the city since, like the end, like 2009, I think, as city council and volunteering and then as mayor. And Eagle did not implode. Now, again, I'm not saying Stan's the right person to be mayor of Eagle right now, but like he was at least part of what made Eagle as awesome as it is today. Right. And if he was doing such a poor job on the city council, he probably wouldn't have made it to be mayor. So again, not saying Stan's the guy, but there's a broad mix. There was a broad mix. It wasn't all 100%, conservative or just like, look, people just got along. People were just kind of people. Like, have you noticed, as somebody who's been here your whole life, have you noticed this real shift in politics?
For me, yes, I grew up, I was born and raised here. I moved to Boise when I was 2 from Filer. For me, it was always just like everyone just loved everybody. That's just how we grew up. I grew up in a pastor's home and it was just kind of our life. Like you accept everyone, you love everybody. Even when I started my business, I wasn't going into business. I didn't know anything about business. I was a school teacher, and then I loved vintage items, and so I started doing flea markets, and then someone said, open a shop. So I did. I had months to figure it out, and we launched. But the customers that came in, it was always just about regular life. Like none of that came up in my shop. We didn't have political issues, all the different things. And then I would say in the last 3 years, it's been really hard sometimes in my shop because some people come in with this agenda of like they're passionate about some politics of some type or some moral issue. And it's hard. It's hard being a business owner because I feel the shift and trying to manage it and trying to have like a neutral zone that people can just have a break from life and come enjoy themselves in my shop. My whole goal is that people will feel calm and noticed in my shop. And I want everyone to walk in feeling safe, right? So I've noticed a lot of conversations, people talking to each other. It's not necessarily like they're coming in and standing on their box and saying, shouting out about something, but it's more about the conversations that they're having with someone else. And then it just gets heated and someone else joins in. And it's like this group of just like turmoil, right? And I can sense the tension in my staff, myself, other shoppers. And so I've had to kind of find ways to be like changing the subject, trying to get it to be more neutral. But like last week, there was someone that was just, going off about things that are happening in our world. And, and then another couple came and I had 8 people at the front of my store and people couldn't walk in. And I was like looking at my staff, like, what do I do? So I walked through and I was like, oh, excuse me, I need to go get something. Try and just politely interrupt it. So,
break it up.
Because I don't want to, I hate conflict. You know what I mean? So I want a happy place. But I could tell like there's a man with a stroller that couldn't walk in my door because they were just standing there for like 15 minutes. So they started talking about like people running for this and that and all that. And so I finally walked over and I said, I'm so sorry, but can we take this outside? I just want this to be kind of a neutral zone. And they were like, oh, but he's running. And I was like,
You're like, I understand, but I'm actually selling goods.
Yes.
So
I need people to walk in because
Right.
I need people. So I've noticed a lot more of that. And it's been challenging as a business and a business owner to know how to handle those types of situations. Plus with all the other issues going on downtown, how do you survive and keep happy in your business with these things happening?
Yeah, man, what a tricky thing.
Yeah.
And I actually turned off with the mayoral and city council, and I'll probably do it with the school board candidates. The videos on YouTube, I actually turned off the comments because people started getting into it in the comments, and people were, as people do on social media. And I think that's probably the roughest of communications, right? Where you're least invested in what you're saying. There are the fewest repercussions for what you're saying. You can dehumanize people really, really quickly, which is, again, something I vehemently object to and oppose to. Like, it's just not the way to communicate. And very much like you, I want the platform to be somewhere where people can come get information, where they don't, get sucked into these comments of, all the nasty vitriol that we've come to expect from, the dumpster fire of social media. So I did the same thing. Like, I want this to be a spot where people can come and you can watch the video or not, but this isn't going to be the hub for the weird, right? Like, you can take this video and post it on Nextdoor and have the weird over there, but like the weird is not going to hang out here. It's like, take it outside. I'm not interested in it. If I may ask, what were the original items that you started selling that you were fond of that, kind of started populating your flea market shelves and whatnot?
So I always love a good old vintage item. My dad was someone who found, I don't know, he saw potential in things. And so he was always like creating things and making things. And he was a builder, very creative. My mom was very good at interior design. So I always loved that. I wanted to be an architect. I wanted to do something creative. But then, girls don't do that. You're from that generation of like, you should be a school teacher. I didn't want to be a school teacher. My mom was a school teacher, but I loved kids. I want to be involved with kids. And so back then I just did what I was told to do. I was a good kid. I just was like wanting to make everybody happy. So I went into teaching, but I always loved creative stuff. So I did wedding planning. I did home design. I did all these different things on the side, but I always loved vintage. And so I would collect things. Like my whole house is either from a flea market, Craigslist, something. Like, I love to create beauty out of something that someone was going to toss away. So then my house got done, and I still loved collecting. And so I just thought, well, maybe I'll start selling items. So I started with a flea market, and I was just doing flea markets, antique shows. And then I got a spot behind a shop in Boise, Enchanting Objects. So I just had a booth for like a year. And then I was like, I love business, though. I love creating and being, just the behind the scenes type stuff. And my friend said, well, there's a spot opening in Eagle. Maybe you should open a shop. And we lived in Eagle. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. That's a big commitment. So I went and looked at the place. It's now where Maison Bleu is at, downtown Eagle. We looked at it. I called the owner. She was in California. And she's like, well, I have another person that might be interested, but they just want it for an office space. I really want it for retail. Can you tell me in 2 days? I didn't have a business plan. I didn't even have a cash box. Like, I had nothing. Like, I didn't.
Because you were just functioning out of a booth.
I was just in a booth. And I'd quit teaching a couple years before, and I was working at our church with our youth pastor. And but I always loved the business side of stuff. And so I was like, well, maybe. So my husband and I, we talked through it, and we're like, can we do a 1-year contract, like a 1-year lease? And And my husband's like, Mr. Yes, we can do anything, you know, and he's like, do it, you can do it. And I'm like, okay. So we called her back and she's like, okay, you have it January 1st. So that was a month. This was Thanksgiving time. And so we launched our business in 1 month. We took it over and started, and we've been going ever since. So that was 2017. So it was mostly just vintage items. We would paint furniture. We would redo lots of different projects. My husband paints a lot of the furniture that we do. And so that was the beginning of our business adventures. And then we moved to the location I'm in a year and a half after that. So
Okay, so what happened in that first year and a half where you have a brick and mortar, which is like the crucible for anybody trying to sell anything, but obviously vintage and refinished, reclaimed, redone items don't really find good representation on, let's say, Amazon. And Etsy used to be a cool place to sell things, but then it kind of became the world of people contracting with like Alibaba in China,
right,
and effectively just posting pictures of things, claiming that they're handmade, and then buying like 5,000 of them off Alibaba and then selling them here, right? Which is really unfortunate because Etsy had a shot. Like they had a shot to make like to bring a platform for real handmade, handcrafted things to the world. The other problem with Etsy is the quality is so all over the place. Like even if you get my wife, you know, back when Etsy was kind of like on the way up, she's like, oh, there's a site we can like buy these things. So she got these like holiday things. They were handmade, hand painted. They were essentially, when we got them, we realized like, okay, these are 2x4s that are cut and then stacked like a snowman, like three, right? With decreasing size going up. And then this lady put some like twigs in them for arms and other things. And they looked nice enough, right? And she'd painted them and sanded them and everything. I was like, okay, somebody with some spare wood and some time, you know, like did this. Okay, you got my $15, like good for you. But they were hot glued together, right? So the second one of them got knocked over, they split. Right, because it's like the hot glue. It's like it wasn't wood glue. There was no dowel,
right?
And so even though aesthetically it may have fit the bill initially, first off, even if it made it the first season, the second you store it in the Rubbermaid bin, it's coming out broken the next season. So Etsy was kind of rough. But what you obviously made it in that first year and a half against the odds. Like, what were you doing in your store? Like, what were you offering people that they weren't getting elsewhere, or how were you doing business so that you were successful and able to actually even step up?
So I think what made us different than the normal store is that we were only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, every other week. So yes, I know. And everyone thought we were like...
That's the successful...
Yeah, that was successful business for me.
You can't come in here.
I know. I'm
3 days out of 14. That's the only time.
But I think taking away what they want and then making it only available certain times created this urgency of like, we want to see what's new. The difference also was that I changed the shop every other week. So in that in-between time, we tore it down, we reset it, we painted furniture. So we were always having something new to see every single time they walked in the door. So there was this, I know it sounded crazy. I had men walk in and be like, how can you even be open? I don't even understand how you're surviving. But I think it was we were different, and it was almost like there's only one item, you know what I mean? Like this urgency. If I don't get there and get it before it's gone, someone else is going to get it before me. And so, but a lot of it was finding the furniture. A lot of people were moving here, so we were helping people furnish their homes, creating new looks. You know, I have like handmade jewelry from people, you know, so we supported a lot of locals as well. But I think the difference is that we were creating something new for them to see every time. So even in my shop now, we're open every week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I'm still limited, and people still are like, why can't you open more days? Well, I need to be creative because that's what kind of sets us apart. Like we move things in our shop every week. I don't tear down the whole thing like I used to, because that almost killed me, but I was younger then, so I could do it. But every 3 to 4 months we do it again. We tear down the whole shop. We make a whole new set. I have a new chalkboard saying, a new theme. So there's something new for our customers to always come back to. So it's kind of more of an event. It's more of an experience than just I'm going shopping. So I try to create more of that connection with people, and that feeds my creativity. Because if I was just to be open, it wouldn't be fun for me anymore.
God, okay. first off, hilarious that you did the scarcity model. They did a South Park on this where Cartman inherited $1 million and he bought a theme park. And he was like, they're like, oh my gosh, what are you going to do to the theme park? He's like, I'm going to shut the doors and no one else can come in. So he would ride the roller coasters by himself. He's like this
word.
totally antisocial, crazy psychopath, right? In the cartoon. So he's riding all these rides and then one of the rides breaks and he has to hire like a repair guy. And he's like, I don't have any money. He's like, why don't you just let 2 kids in and you can take that money? And anyway, so like as the time goes on, it's like the restrooms break. He has to hire a plumber. He has to let 2 more people in. And all of a sudden at the end of the episode, the theme park is like overflowing with people. And they're like, Eric Cartman is a marketing genius. He went with the you can't come tactic, right? Because again, he made it scarce. And that's obviously a cartoon, but you actually did that.
Yes.
No, you can't come in. You're going to have to come back in 10 days. We'll see you then.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really interesting is there's a book on entrepreneurship called The E-Myth. I don't know if you've ever...
I've read it.
Yeah, great book. You effectively did what The E-Myth warns against and says never works, which is being a creative person and still maintaining your creativity while running a business, right? Because the classic example is the pie shop, owner in the book. And pie shop owner really loved pies, really loved creating these pies and tried to make this business around pies, but didn't actually make a successful business model, right? Relied too heavily on employees that were undervalued. The pie owner just wanted to make pies and whatever. But you have managed to keep that creativity, but design a business that actually thrives and supports that, which is like the holy grail for creative business owners and entrepreneurs. That's wild.
To me, like when I'm not being creative, that's when I feel like the business is suffering and I'm feeling like I just feel this feel, right? Like with like the tension of what's happening like around us, and like, the construction and all the things, I start to lose my creativity and then I'm like, why am I even doing this? Like, let's just shut the doors. I can't. But then I like take a day and I go get creative and then I'm like, oh, okay, we can do this. Let's, do we need to pivot our business? Do we need to do something different to create, to keep this going? Because if I lose that creativity, then it's pointless for me to even be there.
Right. I really enjoy woodworking. In fact, I make a lot of exterior tables or dining tables and things like that because those are items that cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And I figured out how to make them years ago. And I was like, oh, this is like $400 in lumber and you want like 4,000, like Pottery Barn, shut up. Like you're literally doing nothing for me. And my wife one time wanted me to make, it was like a mantle or something or a fancy kind of craftsman surround for a fireplace we had. And she said, I want it exactly like this. And she gave me this picture and it was like it was something off of one of the how-to carpentry things online. And it was so difficult for me to express to her how her giving me a picture of exactly what she wants. She's like, these are all of the cuts. Like you just follow these instructions. And it robbed me of any kind of creative aspect of it. I'm like, I don't want to do that. And we got into these big, I don't want to say fights, but like these big, really heated discussions because I didn't want to do it and I couldn't express to him like, you're taking the only thing fun out of it for me. Right. Like if you're telling me I just have to follow these instructions and do all this stuff, it's no longer a creative process. It's literally just filing taxes. Like it's not a thing. So I have a great appreciation for that. Like if you take away the funnest aspect of it, it's like, look, I don't care what you're doing. It's just no longer worth it for me.
Yeah. Oh, agree. Yeah, for sure.
So that being said, your entire business model is now at the whim of ACHD.
Yeah.
When did you find out they were going to completely tear up that downtown corridor that you and Old State Saloon and like Bodacious Pig and Rembrandt, like all of these businesses that are like the core of the historic downtown corridor are about to just get slaughtered. Like walk me back. When did you first find out about this? Was it initially a good idea? What are the problems they're trying to address? Like help me understand that.
Well, it's hard to know for sure when it all started. I mean, I know there's been talk about like the roundabout and all the things downtown Eagle. Like that's been talked about for years, right? And so you just kind of file it away like, okay, we'll see what happens. When what first hit us was the independent construction that's going on around it, the private construction, right? So last January, when Wild West used to be next to us, we had the empty lot in Wild
Yes.
West, and so when that all was sold or created to this for the new project that's happening next to us, that was all closed down last January, and so that's when my concerns started, because once you close that restaurant, we lost business. Like, we are down 30% already just from last year to this year.
From the foot traffic.
Just
People
from foot
coming
traffic.
out or waiting for a table.
Yeah, people
Gotcha.
walking around. They had breakfast. They would come shop with us. And so when that started, and then the construction happened next to us, and the fences went up, there's no way to walk to us or park in front of us. Luckily, we have parking next to us, which is super helpful. But if people don't feel like they can come down, then we're suffering. Like, I even had a lady last week, like, I just didn't know the black fences. I wasn't sure what's happening down here. I just kind of avoid it. So when that all started this last year, that's when I was like, oh no, this is going to be a really hard year. And they had to close the road like just for a week at, certain different times. And those weeks we were dead, completely dead. The whole town was dead, because if people can't get to us, they're going to go around us and not come back in.
Right. And even the people trying to get through, they're like, this is not worth it.
No.
I mean, like,
Right.
I remember actually one of those weeks when a portion of Eagle was shut down.
Yeah.
I was trying to get through that corridor. I'm like, this is impossible. Like, it's going to take me 20 minutes to go 50 feet. Like, it's just a parking lot.
Right. Right. And so then people, obviously we all do, we avoid, right? Like, I'm going to go around a different way. But once you're out of sight, out of mind, people are going to find somewhere else to go. And so that was the red flags to me, like, oh no, this is going to be a really hard year. And then we started finding out about, like, well, that's not the only thing. ACHD is going to start doing some work as well. My whole philosophy is you make friends with your construction people, because they're the ones that are going to be your neighbors for the next 2 years. So, like, I connected with the superintendent, Trevor, next door. And so he keeps me posted of what's happening. And I just feel like you got to be more proactive. You got to find out what's happening around you, because it's not always going to be coming to you. I do have to say ACHD did do a good job. They have a communication gal, Erin. So she came into our shop and said, hey, this is what might be happening soon. Tammy from the city, she's been amazing. I really appreciate her. She's trying to, she walks down to our shop. She checks in on us. How can we help you? This is what might be happening. How can we get some meetings together? So all that kind of was just like getting little pieces here and there. And then ACHD, I just was hearing different things, like, we're going to close this down, we're going to do this. So I found out about a city council meeting that they were presenting their ideas. And so someone said, hey, you need to be at that. I didn't know about it, for sure. Tammy was a great one that said, hey, you might want to know what's happening around the city. And I realized I had to be my own advocate. No one else was going to fight for my business except for me. And I have a heart for all of downtown Eagle and all of us really collaborating, working together, because we're only going to survive if we help each other. We can't be us and them, because we're all in this together. We're all going to suffer together. So I went to a city council meeting and heard them present to the city council. And then I got up and spoke about our concerns as businesses. And what was the city going to do to help us survive this? Because I feel like a lot of people have moved to the city. People that have lived here forever love our quaint little town. And I feel like a lot of our businesses, most of our businesses down there are all self-made. Most of us did not have business degrees. We did something else, and then we started businesses. And so the scary thing is like, who's going to help support us in this transition time? So when I went and spoke, I presented my concerns of, like, we're the ones that kind of helped create this feel downtown. How are you going to help us survive this? Because right now, if I'm down 30% and the roads are still open, they've only been closed for a week or two out of this whole year, what's going to happen when people can't get to us at all? Or they say there's going to be one lane open. Well, no one's going to go down that one lane if they don't have to. They're going to have to go all the way around to Ballantyne or to Edgewood or to Highway 55. No one's going to be going through downtown Eagle. And so all of that just kind of like got flopped, just like onto the table, like, oh, here we go. I'm not sure. I mean, I was told, yes, it's unfortunate. This is what we have to do. And I'm not against growth. I'm not against, like, I've lived here my whole life. I see the problem with traffic. I see that we need to do something different on some of our lanes. I wish we would have done some of that a little sooner than now. But at the same time, we have to go through it, but I don't know the best way to get through it. I'm at a loss right now. So like this last summer, I created this citywide sidewalk sale. I just asked all the different shops, whoever wants to be in, let's get people down here. So we launched our own little social media campaign and did that. I just am launching I emailed all the other shops. They're going to have 17 shops doing a holiday shop hop, trying to get people back down to Eagle. We need help with our community in order to be able to survive. Even before this starts, we're already suffering. I was told at a meeting just this last week, ACHD invited all the business owners down to kind of like let us know ahead of time what's going to happen. What are they going to do to help us? And so it sounds like they'll have another meeting in January, and then from there, construction will start. And from January through, they said probably October, November of next year, we will have roads shut around us. And then after that, it's going to be another 8 months of more construction. There'll be phases we can talk about, but that's scary as a business owner to think that I have 2 years. I just signed a 5-year lease. I have 2 years of, can people even get to me? And what I've seen already with what's happened just with private construction, it's really scary of how are we going to survive? And I don't really know the answer. I don't really know. That's why I'm trying to get creative in my own business. Like, what can I do to get people down here? How do I get to them if they can't get to me? I'm just trying to explore all the different options in order to be able to survive and pay my employees and my rent. And rent went up this year. It didn't go down. All of that's happening around us. But there's not really great answers of how to fix it.
Man, when you say that the reps from ACHD are like, we know this is unfortunate, but come on down and tell us your problems. I grip like white knuckle the chair because look, as a business owner, and I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I've never had a job since I graduated from college. I've never worked for someone. I've never applied for a job. Like, I just haven't. Mm-hmm. And so I understand how hard it is to do something in the world where a random stranger that you don't know, not like your mom or your cousin or your auntie who really likes you, but like a random person who you don't know will show up and trade their money for whatever you're doing. That's so hard to do. And yeah, maybe you get lucky and do it once or twice. To repeat it day on month on year, it's like, it's wild. And you have I had no formal business training.
Right.
Very similar to you.
Right.
Like, I had a specific skill set in education, and I have a specific skill set with communication, and then everything else is just self-taught, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you just learn. So for somebody to, my original business, SAT tutoring, already died because mm-hmm. the world just changed, mm-hmm. right? Like the SATs became no longer required. And for a lot of schools in California in particular, they refuse to even examine them. It's not that they're optional. So if you want to go to UCLA or something, they won't even look at your test score. So the world changed, mm-hmm. and, not my fault, not anyone's fault in particular, but to lose that when it was something that I worked on for almost 20 years it was heartbreaking. So when you talk about somebody saying like, hey, this is unfortunate, but like, we'll give you a sign or something to put out that you're still open, it makes my blood boil to the degree that very few things do. If you don't mind, I don't think a lot of people understand the scope of what's going on and what, they hear like, okay, road closure or this or the other. Mm-hmm. I want to go over some of the actual photos and PDFs that ACHD has up so people can get a sense of what's actually going on. And to your point before we do that, when you said that when the restaurant went away and your business dropped 30%, mm-hmm. I think a lot of people consider businesses as like these islands, like mm-hmm. these autonomous little, it's like, oh, well, whatever. People coming to get a sandwich or an omelet or something aren't coming to shop. It's like, well, that's not actually true. Mm-hmm. right, a lot of the shopping experience, especially with things in your realm, are things that they don't know that they wanted.
Right.
Right. Like they're not going down to you expressly because they're like, she has that thing, or at least not always. Right.
Right.
There are things that just, especially with creative people, there are things that people didn't know that they thought would be cool. Like the way you paint it could be a side table or a specific frame or something like that. They're like, that's super cool. So it's almost like it has to be accidental to some degree. And especially if you're changing and upgrading your store all the time with new products and new creative things, it's this constant kind of accidental discovery of product and of items that people might want. And there's just strength in numbers down there. It's like the more Old State draws in people, the more you draw in people. Maybe people come to your store and then they stop and get a bite somewhere else. Or, it's like it's a whole network. Totally. The idea that it's just one is just, one, it's not accurate. And two, it's a really dangerous thought because as businesses start to go, and we're already seeing that, right? Holy Cow's gone, Alchemist Coffee's gone. This is like in the last week or so.
Right.
It's like they're starting to drop out. And as they drop, and people can say whatever they want about those particular businesses, whether they were destined to fail or not, it doesn't matter to me. The point is, if you have 6 stores on a corner or on a block and one of them goes, that's going to distinctly affect the other stores, right? And if you have 2 of them go, now you've lost 30% or 33% of the traffic that was theoretically coming by that could have accidentally happened onto your store.
Definitely.
It's a domino effect that's really rough. And the reason people are coming downtown, presumably the reason why they want to revitalize downtown and make it easier is because businesses like yours have been successful and they're drawing people to the area. They're like, well, there's so many people coming down here. We have to get more parking. We have to do this. Okay, but they're going to kill the business that was the magnet in the first place.
Right. I think that's the thing is a lot of people think, oh, it's just your own little business, people have said like, oh, are you worried about these other shops opening near you? Like other home decor shops and other little gift shops. I'm like, no, the more we have, the more reason people want to come down and walk around town. But the minute you see, like you said, like a restaurant closes or something happens or the sidewalks are closed, people stop wandering. They stop, gathering together and coming down and supporting the whole community. And I think that's why I keep crying out for like all business, because we are all connected in some way. And if we can support each other and then have our community support all of us, then we're going to all survive it together. If we don't and we become isolated on our little islands, we're all going to pretty much die, because mentally and physically you can't keep up with the fight against something so huge. But if we can work together and as a community work together, maybe we can get through this. I know that when we get on the other side, it will be okay, but will we make it till then? I can't guarantee that. Like we had Scoops, our ice cream shop. It was behind. So my husband and I, we own that. We own Idaho Soap Company in Eagle. We're definitely pro-business, right? But we shut down Scoops this last summer and people were very upset with us, like angry. People yelling at me in my shop because they can't get their, lemon sorbet. And I'm like, sorry.
It's a good sorbet.
I know, it's
Lemon's
really
my
good.
favorite.
I know,
Raspberry's
right?
far too sweet.
So I know. I mean, I understand. But at the same time, I'm
Yelling
like,
at
first
you
world
in your
problems,
shop?
right? Yeah. No, yelling. No, seriously. People so upset. And I'm like, wow, okay. But again, it was community. It was a place for people to gather. But when you look at the cost of it and the safety of trucks going in and out and kids riding their bikes and walking, like my husband and I were like, we can't handle that, right? We can't keep up all of these businesses. We have to choose what we're going to do. But again, once that went down, then that affects something else and something else, right? And so it's this domino effect. And like we said about ACHD, I do feel like I don't fault them, because it is what it is. The growth has happened. We have to change our roads. We have to do something. It's bottleneck down there. The timing of it, I'm not sure. Like, could we do something in a shorter period of time? Could we work at night? Could we do, could there be something that doesn't hurt the businesses and the community as much? I don't know. I do feel like they are listening through the meetings that I've had. At first I was like, no one really cares. I do feel like they're trying the best they can to, like they said, they're going to promote campaigns of people knowing like what's happening down, putting money towards like social media and advertising about Eagle businesses. That's yet to be seen, obviously, because it hasn't started. I do feel like sometimes we can just scream about it and then it's not really going to get us anywhere, but more can we all meet together and make it better. The communication's got to be huge though. I feel like as our community, they need to know what's coming and happening because it's going to impact even people driving to school and people going home, right? Like, are they aware of what's going to happen to them? And I do know that in January, they want to promote more of that. But at the same time, it's hard because there's no funding of like, well, what happens when there's no one shopping? Like even for me, like I usually buy my Christmas decor and everything back in March and April. I didn't buy any of my Christmas decor until last week because I didn't know if I was going to have money in order to buy for my fourth quarter. Fourth quarter is my biggest selling point. I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it or not. I had to cut on payroll. And this is all before major construction happens. What will the next year look like? Will I even have funds in order to be able to buy product for people to come in and shop? I don't know. So it's like I'm living each day looking, okay, how are sales yesterday? Oh, can I buy? Okay, oh, I have to pay my rent. Okay, well, I can't buy for another week. Like it's this shuffle of like the money in and out, which is already hard in business, but then the unknown of what's to come. Like I can't project what I should have for first and second quarter next year because I don't even know if people will be walking in my shop. So it's that balance of like what to do.
Man, that just seems like an impossible thing to juggle.
A lot of sleepless nights, let's say. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's show people what we're actually talking about now. The image we have up on the screen here is phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 1 has there's a lot of traffic, but essentially phase 1 is saying early 2024 through fall of 2024. And then phase 2 is fall of 2024 to fall of 2025. So we're almost doing like a full 2 years.
Yes.
And there are a lot of nuances of this. This is in particular the traffic pattern, but you can see if you're heading west on State, you're not going to be able to make a left turn onto Eagle.
Correct.
That'll be tough. You'll have to go up all the way around Rembrandt's, that parking lot, the whole thing, and come back around. You will be able to make a left before you get to First Street. I think that's a left on Second Street. Am I correct?
Correct.
Right. And then, so again, the traffic pattern is going to be wildly disrupted. I really enjoy going to Rembrandt's. I really enjoy going to Rib Shack, Bodacious, like all of those shops down there. I really, really enjoy. I can tell you right now, it's gonna make things a lot more difficult. And I'm not, again, you're pointing out, in I think a very fair manner, hey, we have to recognize that things do need to change, but we need to figure something else out. Perhaps, people do work at night. I know it costs more. You double the fee, but something needs to happen. So this is the initial kind of traffic disruption. If we go on to the next one. Now, this is the phase 1 schedule, right? So phase 1, and again, this is 2024, beginning to the end of 24. You're going to have there's a whole slew of things here. This is all on the ACHD website, by the way. So I won't take the time to rattle off all these individual things, but we'll go to the map so people can see. But if you want to see a real detailed list, just go to the ACHD website, put in Eagle Downtown, and you'll eventually get to the project. I'll see if I can put a link up there too so people can find it. But looking at actual phase 1 here. Okay, now this is your area, the top right corner, right?
Yes.
Okay, First and Second Street. So we have, man, this is going to be brutal. Well, why don't you walk me through this? Okay. So we're tearing up the sidewalks, right? We're rerouting traffic around, so you can no longer make a left onto First Street, right? You have to make a left on Second Street. Am I correct on that, or am I missing that?
So with it, see where the stoplight's at.
Yes.
So that's where the 4-way stop is right now, right by the gazebo. So they are going to be putting in a stoplight right there. That's going to be asphalt work, so it's not concrete work. So what they told us is that they'll hopefully will be able to keep one lane open at a time, so traffic won't be completely shut down. But it will be obviously disrupted. So, and then all of the dark black lines is where they're going to be putting in new sidewalks and curbing. And then they're going to be creating a left turn lane if you're going east, right in front of Subway. That will be a left turn lane to be able to turn left onto Second Street.
Gotcha. And it appears that they're doing something similar on just further up on the left. If you're heading, is it east? Am I misreading that one? This guy right here. That guy, that's a left-hand turn lane, right?
Which
That
one?
yellow in the middle of the street?
Yeah, that's actually the barrier. That's going to be like the painted line.
Oh, gotcha.
So the
Okay.
yellow is the painted line, and then you can still turn. You'll still be able to turn left onto our first street next to our shop during that first phase. But that is going to be the major project in that area will be the stoplight area. And
all the sidewalks.
and all the sidewalks.
Which is the real emphasis, because now there's no more foot traffic. You're not parking in front of the sidewalk that's getting,
Right.
constructed. It's going to be down to one lane, so that's going to be really rough. And again, just in general, like if you're looking for a nice Saturday stroll to like go down and check out the stuff at Sweet Tea Living, it's gonna be really hard if you can't walk on the sidewalks. You can't really park in front of the store. You can't. There's nothing leisurely about it. Like you actually have to be kind of concerned about what's
Right.
going on.
Right. And that's where I just keep saying to like our customers, like when you see construction, find a way in. Try to find a way in, because none of us are choosing for this to happen. It's just happening. And so we need other support in order to survive it. But yes, that's going to be some major issues there. So they're going to either start on this section first, or they'll be starting on the section in front of Albertsons.
Right.
So it's going to bid, I guess, into this month, maybe November. And then once the contractor gets the bid, then they will decide timing for
Gotcha.
sure.
Now, in front of Albertsons. Now, by the way, I love the Lego store. I love Squeeze In. I went to McDonald's. Literally, I don't go to McDonald's frequently, but I did go to McDonald's like a week ago with my oldest son, and we got like a French fry and an orange soda.
Fun.
It's like there are little things like that. Like I really enjoyed that corner, and we obviously go to Albertsons as well, Zamzow's, Walgreens, the whole bit. So this is all getting torn up. Right? Like the sidewalk. And again, we're looking at the black here. That's sidewalk. That's all going to be redone. That's all concrete work. Right? I mean, it's going to be a train wreck down there.
Yeah. According to the meeting that I was at, a lot of that is all concrete work. So the lighter gray areas, they said, is like concrete work. So that will be more involved. You'll see next to like on Plaza where there's the 2 left turn lanes. That's what they're going to be putting in. Because right now that's total bottleneck, right?
Yes.
And it's a mess. So obviously, again, we know there needs to be change. We know things need to happen, but it's going to impact all those areas. So I don't know.
And they also have multiple medians getting installed in the middle of the road.
Yes.
Right.
So then that way the traffic separators.
Right.
Yeah. They did say that during the construction, they're going to limit, like commuter traffic here. Like obviously local people that need to get through there will be able to get through there. But again, that's a concern for all of us, that area all the way going into the old downtown area is if people can't get through us and they have to be rerouted to Ballantyne, or they have to be rerouted to Edgewood or Highway 55, people aren't going to come back down. They're going to go around and then find somewhere else to go. So that's a concern for sure. I know that like there's a median, like a traffic separator, right? Like to go into Zamzow's and like Bowl of Heaven, all of them. They did say they may tear that out. So as you turn right onto Eagle Road, you'd be able to turn left into that area because the intersection will be under construction. So they'll have to reroute them because they have to provide access. So it may be one little tiny lane, but they are still providing access. They can't shut us down completely. They have to find a way to get people to us somehow.
Right. It kind of betrays the reality that people want to be able to get to you easily.
Right.
And they probably want to be able to park within like 50 feet.
Right.
Like, yeah, they could park a quarter mile away and walk for 10 minutes.
Right.
But,
Right. And I guess that's where I keep crying out to our community is that if you guys know how big this is going to impact us, then let's be a community that surrounds our downtown and helps all of these businesses survive. Right. Because if we don't have that and you forget about us, we will slowly start having to close. Right. I mean, that's just reality.
Right. And then again, when one falls, another falls.
Right.
And then the last, like, it's almost like if you were an Apple store, you're a destination. People are going to get to you because they have to get to you. But if you're not an Apple store or something like that, that's the only big like retail store I can think of that just has this standing presence. And it doesn't matter where you put the Apple store. People will go to the Apple store because they don't know how to use their stupid phones.
Right.
Like, I don't know how to use a
Hey, now,
stupid
be
phone.
careful.
No, I'm not criticizing you. I'm
know,
saying
just-
like I have like I was actually in this hot conversation with my wife because I'm so mad that my phone always shows that I have this update that I have to do, and I don't want to do the update, and I don't know how to turn off the notification for the update. Like I don't know how to use the stupid phone. I'm an idiot. Like I'm
love
a
it.
monkey with headphones. Anyway, so this is phase 1. So this
Yes.
is essentially like 9 or 10 months of this coming year.
Yes.
For phase 2, we have more.
Yes. More to come.
More to come. So
Yes.
this is phase 2. Now, phase 2, again, you guys are right there on first, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. So for phase 2, again, all of the sidewalks around you are getting destroyed, right? Like that's going to be rough. The sidewalks around Rembrandt's, right? The sidewalks around Bodacious. I mean, all of it. So all of the walking capacity is essentially gone, and that's fall of 24 to fall of 25. So this is slotted to be a 1 year.
So it's like another, so that'll be 2 years from now.
Right.
They will be, again, redoing that whole intersection, repaving Old State and Eagle Road. So all of that's going to have to, be under construction. And then you can see all the black lines of like new curbing, new sidewalks, new streetscape. You'll see the little black or the little white lines right in front of like my little shop and then that big building that they're building next to us. There's the little white lines in the road right on Old State. Those will be parking. But that's really the only parking that's going to be put back in downtown Eagle.
So let me be clear. The parking right
Those
here,
little tiny white hash marks.
teeny tiny. What is that? 8 spots? 9 if you
Yeah.
count a motorcycle.
Yeah. So, I mean, and granted, that really impacted us because they've been shut down for the private construction that's going on right now. So losing that has not helped like Old State. Like people can't walk,
Right.
So unless we have our little parking spots, my concern, so if we're going to actually talk about all of this, is my
Well, we're
concern
not talking about other stuff, that's for sure.
is even the parking issues of downtown. Like what does the city, ACHD is in charge of streets, right? They're in charge of the streets and making sure that the streets and the sidewalks and all that is safe. But as a city, what are we doing to plan ahead for construction? The cost of doing business is not cheap downtown Eagle, and it's going to be going up even more. And then I keep thinking about if all these newer buildings are going in, where's the traffic going to go? Where's the parking going to go? Like if they're supposed to have restaurants and shops next to me in this new building, and then other things are opening, where do the workers park? Where do, if you're going to have an office space, at least 10 people might work in the office. That's 10 more cars. Well, where are they going to be parking? Are we working that into our downtown system? Is there a way we can do a parking garage where people could park nearby and walk the town? Like, are we creating a way for it to be pedestrian friendly, bike friendly? I'm asking those questions at these meetings because that's what will keep people down there longer. And just like staying down there longer if they have a place to park and they can wander. Are we creating those places for them to be able to park and explore our town? I ask those questions and I don't really get any answers. And that's our concern as all businesses is what are we going to do? Like I have my staff, we park 2 blocks away and we walk in because we want to save parking for people to actually get to us. With construction, where are people going to even park during this time? How are they going to get to us if there's no sidewalks? And then also what happens when it's over? Those are the questions I have that I'm just struggling with. What can we do to promote more walking and biking in our downtown?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think the argument for this project would naturally be, hey, look, we're going to allow freer movement through the area, right? We're going to have better sidewalks. We're going to have, better traffic flow. We're going to have things like that. Mm-hmm. And that appears to be true, right? Like,
right.
Better sidewalks in the whole bit, right? So people can walk around and whatnot. But your point is really well made. The town I moved from, actually, in Danville, had in California had this exact issue. They really wanted to have a walkable, solid downtown. And there was the old Danville Hotel, and I remember playing hide and go seek there when I was like 10. It was this old building and all this stuff. But again, sleepy town, they were trying to revitalize it. What they ended up doing is just taking a massive area and making a public parking area out of it. And that allowed people to go park. You could go shopping very easily. You could go to restaurants very easily. And there were multiple of these parking just spots, right? And then for private parking, like there were office buildings, and then after 5 o'clock, there was an agreement. It's like, oh, this becomes public parking after 5. So just kind of repurposing existing private facilities. All of that stuff led to the downtown Danville area just being flooded by people, and the businesses really did well because people could go down there easily and get after it. So your question of, look, what do we do when this is over, right? Because yeah, great. It's great to have all these, easy to navigate streets and everything. But if you can't park, people are just going to keep driving by. Right. Like, you don't need sidewalks if people have to park a half mile away to get to the restaurant, because people aren't going to be walking by. Like, it has to be the kind of thing where people can stroll on through. They can get to their destination and then wander around very, very easily. Are you aware of any additional parking plans or efforts to get? I mean, because we're already losing parking, right? You can't park on the north side of East State, right? You have 8 spots plus 1 motorcycle,
right,
on the south side of state, right there. But there's nothing else in that area,
right? And my concern is if there's going to be opening up more shops and more things, where do these customers go? Let alone like the people working it. And I don't know. That's a question I keep asking. I don't know if it's where the money that's being, I don't really know. I keep asking that question, and a lot of us keep wondering, like, what is the city going to do? Because obviously you're wanting to invest, but are we worried more about like getting other businesses in that can spend more money, or like the taxes? I don't know. I don't really know all of that kind of stuff. But what concerns me is, like, are we really thinking about what needs to happen in our downtown to keep it alive? And yes, we're growing out and there's other things happening in other areas. But don't forget about the people that helped create your town. You know what I mean? And I think that's the concerning part, is that we're just trying to survive and create this atmosphere and this experience. That's been always my goal, is like creating this place for families to come and enjoy, right? But if they can't unload themselves and come down and hang out, then they're going to go somewhere else.
Right.
And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if there's some great person that has got a lot of money that just wants to buy some property and put it up. I don't know. Obviously, it's not going to make a lot of money for the city. It'd be probably better to sell that to some business that's going to pay a bunch of taxes on it.
Well, okay, that actually depends. Okay, it's not that. The initial transaction is not long-term transaction, right? So say there's a lot, right? And the city is like, okay, we use this for parking, or we could sell it to a developer. Using it for parking, it's like, okay, well, if we're going to make it public parking, we're probably not going to charge people, just come here and park. And that seems like a drop in revenue, because it comes out to zero from the actual parking spots. So selling it initially, it's like, okay, well, we could sell this to whatever and attempt to get whatever kind of tax revenue. But that's actually just passing the buck and actually betraying the reality, which is the recurring revenue from increased sales taxes or more thriving businesses, is what, in my opinion, the city really should be going for. You can get a one-time sales, and then whatever limited sales revenue from that, whatever gets developed there, or you could create parking, initially have a zero up front, but create a far more thriving downtown, which will give you a boost in recurring sales revenue. So yeah, I understand the argument that it's, hey, we need money now. It's like, yeah, but if, for instance, what contractor and then business would want to buy a lot to build something on if they realized that their customers wouldn't be able to park anywhere close to them? Right. So even the value of the lot is going to go down in the absence of a workable plan to get people into those shops. it's in everybody's best interest for every business downtown to be thriving and pumping as much as possible from a city standpoint and from a consumer standpoint. Because the more your business is successful, the more Old State is successful, the more Bodacious and whatnot are successful, the more options we're going to have as consumers, right? And the better funded the city will be, and the better experience we'll all have. We won't be going to the Village for things. We won't be going into Garden City for like the pho, right? Because I can't find good Chinese. So I do go and get pho. Like my wife and I like pho. And Boise Thai noodle. I love the Thai food, but we got to drive like 15 minutes to get to Boise Thai noodle. It would be awesome if there was a Thai shop, or something like that in downtown. That's only going to happen if people are in downtown. People are only going to be in downtown if there's a way for people to get to downtown. That's really at the core of it.
Agree completely. Yeah. Because I think that's the issue, is that if we're not thinking forward into how to keep this going, you might be a cute, nice downtown with like nice trees and nice sidewalks, but people in the next 2 years might be finding, it's easier to go somewhere else. And then those other businesses aren't going to want to be coming into our area because it's not as thriving as that it could be. My other thing is that we're providing jobs for people.
Right.
The better we do, the more employees I have. Like I've had to scale back my employees this year, right? Because I don't have as many hours to give them because we're not busy enough. But also makes it harder on me because I have to be on the floor more because I can't pay another employee to be there as much. So for me to be creative. So it's all these things that, if I have people that are making good enough money, then they're going to be pouring money back into the other shops around us or eating out or doing the things that, so it's all intertwined, and people, I think, just need to be reminded of, like, in order for this to be successful in the long run, we have to think forward, not just in the immediate, like, oh, great, this next year's going to really be hard. Yes, it will, but if we can get through it, what can become of it?
Right. I feel like we covered quite a bit of it. And I really appreciate your perspective of, hey, look, I'm not here to just complain. Like, I understand there are aspects of this that need to be addressed, right? And even what you're saying, like, it's a bottleneck, it's a train wreck,
right,
kind of a cluster, all these things.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, but we can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Like, this thing does need to be repaired or fixed or remedied, but we need to work together and figure something else out. And that's the consumer, that's the city, that's the larger county agencies, and that's the business owners,
right,
all figuring something out. I have a couple ideas for you. I'm excited about it. Do you have anything else you want to express? Because again, we've talked about quite a few things, and I know this is a working day for you, so you got to get going too.
No, you're good. Yeah, I think it's just, my big thing is like what you just said, is let's all collaborate. Let's work together. Let's bring all the different areas together and try to be creative as best we can in the next 2 years to survive it. And just asking support from our local community of just, even though it might take you 10 more minutes, if you can just find a way to park and walk in, it's going to be a blessing to your town, which will also turn into a blessing for you and your family in the long run.
Man, I couldn't have said it better. That's wonderful. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for taking the time. Let's keep the conversation going.
Awesome.
Right?
Thank
because
you.
This is going to be a long process, no
Yes.
matter what. It's going to be an ongoing collaboration with everyone involved. So let's keep checking in and make sure you're doing all right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by MTU Studios. If you're looking to start a podcast or need content for your business or personal use, content of any type, please reach out to MTU Studios. MTUstudios.com. We'd love to help.